Good morning and welcome to our webinar on managing the security of your AWS environments. I'm Danielle Chapman, I work in the marketing team here at Bytes, and today I'm joined by Chris Bone, UK Channel Manager from Armour Cloud Security, who will be holding the webinar today. I'm also joined by Simon Walker, AWS Services Director at Bytes, who will briefly be talking about Bytes AWS services. So, okay, I'm now going to pass you over to Simon.
Great, thanks Danielle. So thanks guys for joining the webinar today. I'm going to briefly just do a bit of positioning around Bytes AWS services and where our partner Armour fits. Bit of a delay on the slides there. So I suspect a fair few of you already know Bytes and our pedigree around licensing. The Amazon business was born out just 2 years ago to essentially deliver end-to-end services, everything from migrations to optimization services, all the way through to managed services. So we're an advanced consultancy partner with speciality in Microsoft Workload competency and a solution provider, and actually the fastest growing partner for AWS in the UK currently. So the way we built out the practice, we essentially built it on the 5 pillars of the AWS well-architected framework. And on this slide, you can kind of see where our partners plug some of those gaps, essentially where Amazon services aren't quite kind of fit for purpose. And Amazon support us on this. They know they can't do everything in every area. So if we look at from the cost side, we use a partner called Cloud Health for cost optimization and managed services. Around the performance and operational excellence, we obviously use our own architect services, and we're a certified well-architected partner for Amazon. Around backup, we use a partner called Druva, and security, of course, Armour, who will be going into a lot more detail today for you to understand what that service looks like. The key thing about all of our services and all of our partners that we bring into our ecosystem is we want to keep things as simple as possible. It's hard enough to manage cloud environments with all the complexity, all the different services. So we try and make things a lot simpler for you and your teams. This is a bit of an overview of where our services, what services address within the business. So we've got obviously our backup and DR services into Amazon, our cost reduction optimization, best practices around policy governance, our AWS support services, security. Obviously, as we mentioned today, we're going to go through Armour's offering migration. So a big part of our business is migrating workloads from customers on-premise to Amazon, and then refactoring, modernization of those workloads. So customers looking at containerizations, Kubernetes, Docker, we essentially will help those customers modernize. The underpinning team, we have a fully fledged AWS practice, everything from customer support and interaction team onboarding customers onto our cost optimization services. We have business analysts and project managers to help manage projects, ensure that they're all to budget and on time. And then we have a range of architects in different areas. We have DevOps, security, Windows, database, and we're growing that team out on a monthly basis. Final slide from me. I just wanted to make a mention of the funding programs available. So organizations that are looking at migrating workloads to Amazon, there's a host of funding programs, whether it be a POC funding all the way through migration to modernization. So on the left-hand side, you can see some of the kind of funding values. Our customers find these incredibly helpful in terms of planning projects and costing for them. So please do get in contact with us if this is of interest. Now I'm going to hand over to Chris.
Thanks, Simon. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to come and listen to Armour and what we do. It's going to come as no surprise that I'm going to start off by setting some foundations about what we are, what we don't do. I'm sure you talk to a lot of cyber vendors, and I'm sure you come away with the impression that they will do they will cure child poverty and world peace. And whilst we think we've got an incredible offering, we're pretty honest about what we do, and more importantly, what we don't do. So cloud should make us think differently. It's a different deployment method. It's a different management method. We can't hug those chassis anymore. They sit in someone else's data center with someone else's hands on them. And the reason that we've got cloud is because it was born out of cloud vendors that actually use their platform to run their businesses. So Google and Amazon, their platforms grew out of the fact that they needed agility, low cost, speed to market, and unprecedented reliability, availability, and serviceability. And then that enabled them to offer that kind of platform out to customers on a pay-per-use basis. But perhaps we need to adjust our thinking when it comes to the management of those platforms, because we are kind of putting all of our eggs in one basket. In fact, there was a recent report by the FCA looking at banking and banking in the cloud. And one of the things that they were talking to banks about was this thing they call concentration. So, Amazon would love every single retail bank to put all of their workloads into Amazon. Now the hackers have only got one place to go. And so they're actually asking customers to think about concentration or the mix of the two, or true hybrid. Hybrids been around for years. We just called it different things. So I think I wanted to say that because we're going to talk a bit about what we do, and what we do is slightly different. In fact, Gartner cannot currently give us a place on any of their charts, because there's no one else out there that does what we do. So cloud makes us think differently, but it's not a get out of jail free card. In other words, the whole point of cloud, and all cloud vendors are now being more upfront about this than I think they were in the past, in that ultimately it's a shared responsibility model. They give you infrastructure. They give you some services that you can run on top of that infrastructure. But the data and the responsibility for backup of that data is yours. And if you choose to leave it and stage it and snapshot it and archive it on the cloud, the cost of that is your responsibility. And if you look at the Bytes AWS model, it's almost like Amazon have realized that customers have adopted this in a whole scale, and now looking to ways to help customers control the cost, and hence the funding model. I guess I wasn't there when Amazon wrote that strategy, but I'm guessing that that's why they've come out with that position. And cyber, cyber security or security of data. We're seeing this day in, day out in the news. We're seeing ransomware attacks. We're seeing attacks on business. We're seeing focused, targeted attacks on organizations. And let's be clear, the guys that are doing these attacks, they aren't jeans and t-shirts sitting in in their room at 3 o'clock in the morning. These are businesses. These guys can actually tell you the cost of a driving license or a passport or a credit card. And in fact, a little plug for something that we're refreshing this year is we do a study every year that talks about the open market value of items like that. It's quite a fascinating report. By the way, the most expensive item, if you want to buy one in Italy, is a driving license, because it's got your address on it. So it's got to the point where it's a business now where we can look at the cost of data, the value of the data, and certainly the value of illicit data. So at Armour, we talk about this thing about so RYO. No, that's not a spelling mistake. It's not build your own. Is recreate your own the right approach? So Amazon will say they've got some tools. I'll show you a slide in a minute where they acknowledge that you need to do other things. And they said recently at the event I was at that actually, if you've got your favorite tools that you use in your data center, we've probably got the ability to license them from our marketplace. That's great. That's an acknowledgement they need to do something. However, is that really the right approach? If we have to think differently, is recreating what we did in the past the right way going forward? And clearly, what you're going to see from Armour is we maybe have a slightly different approach to that. So we move to the cloud because it's different and it offers benefits, all those benefits I've talked about. You should look at Armour because it's different and it brings benefits. And I'm going to talk about some of those benefits in terms of the stats or the statistics from the security outcomes a little bit later on. But it is a different approach. So look at these numbers. They're quite scary, aren't they? 90% will fail to control, will inappropriately share sensitive data. That's not malicious, that's just accidental by configuration, by not looking at the whole landscape, so unintentional loss of data. And 99% of cloud failures will be the customer's fault. Remember, let's go back to that slide, this is a shared responsibility model. And if you run a business that has a level of compliance, so if you have customer data, that's everybody, these are the risks that you take in terms of compliance, in terms of that horrible thing of 4% of your global revenue if you share a European citizen's data inappropriately. And this is a case study from last year. So this is a customer who was hosting their instance or their some of their applications in Amazon, and that is a financial services company called Capital One, and they had a breach. And this breach was considered so serious that they were hauled up in front of one bit of the American government, if you can work out which bit that is, to kind of atone for their sins. And Amazon was singled out for you caused part of this, and Amazon were quite clear in that yes, they provide some tools, yes, they do some protection around getting into Amazon. But the interesting bit is the piece on the left from Forrester, where they're talking about ignoring cloud workload security and all of those things, right, is going to be the reason that more and more breaches will occur. And what I want to do is just focus on 3 words in that paragraph, which is cloud workload security. And the reason I want to do that is really simple. That's what ARMA do. What we do is multi-cloud workload cybersecurity. We do it very well, but that's what we do. Sometimes I talk to customers about some of our outcomes, and they start to think about all the other things that they need to do, like endpoint. We don't do endpoint because we focus on cloud workload. And because we're laser focused on that, we're actually pretty good at it. In simple terms, what happens is we deploy a number of payloads into the VM running in the cloud. Those payloads deliver intrusion detection, malware, file integrity, vulnerability, log and data management for the sources that we control. We do look at other logs, but from this picture here, this is the logs that apply to those 4 or 5 items above. This is constantly reporting back to our SOC and is looking at events, and then is looking at how those events correlate into a threat or an attack. What makes this different is as we bring that data in, as we bring those log sources in, we normalize them and correlate them. So we can give customers a better view of what a penetration attempt looks at, because we're not looking at one source, we're looking at multiple sources. So it's really simple. It deploys in minutes and immediately starts protecting your instance in the cloud. And whilst we know that Bytes are a big AWS organization, we are true multi-cloud. So the neat bit is we can give you protection for AWS, we can give it for AWS, we could for Azure, we can do that for Google, we can do that from your on-site private cloud, reporting back to a single pane of glass, or to your provider's single pane of glass. And it's almost like, I get told off for saying this by our marketing team, I'm going to say it anyway. It's almost like fire and forget. You deploy it, it sits there, it does its job. But if we email you with a ticket or an alert, you probably better listen, because the way we correlate is in a very unique way. And so we're going to give you an email that says you need to do something, and we'll give you some advice and some guidance about potentially how to remediate it. Or we can give that to your service provider. So if you have some sort of penetration, you have some sort of attack, we can remediate it very quickly. And I'm going to come back and put some numbers behind that in a minute, because they're actually quite scary. Here's how it works. So on the left, what I've just described in terms of the agent deployment and what sits in the agent, it spits out events that go to the cloud security platform, which is the bit in the middle. And on the left of that box, what we're doing is we're ingesting the logs, we're putting them into our data lake for later analysis and also for correlation. And then we take in third-party threats from all the usual sources, as well as community insights. So what activities or different behaviours are we seeing across our community of ARMA users that we can use to inform how we might deploy or how we might design a new threat signature. So we're constantly doing that in the background. That's what our guys do. And then the clever bit is the bit in the middle, which is the correlation. So we have a set of correlation rules or a correlation playbook. We've shown this to a global MSP because we've just signed a contract with them where we're going to buy some hosting services. They're going to buy some security from us. And these guys were blown away by the metadata around those threat signatures. I have to say that all the guys in our SOC, all the guys that design this and build it and currently run it are all ex-NSA. They don't come out into the sunlight very often as well. They like being in dark rooms. So once we've picked out that there is a series of behaviours that we think is a threat, we're going to take that into our platform to automatically orchestrate what the response might look like. Some of that can be automated, some of that will be manual. To be clear, we don't go and do it unless you ask us to, because it might be a false positive. So we could see 15 login attempts followed by a successful attempt, followed by a file integrity alert because someone's escalated their privileges, is now trying to go sideways across the network into another box. Bad practice, I know, in a zero trust environment, but someone could try to do that. We'll probably tell you that's something you should look at. And then you might tell us, well, actually, no, that's fine. He's one of our engineers. He's doing stuff. That's great. He just forgot his password. But what we're trying to limit is the number of times that we tell you there's something to look at. And again, I'm going to come back to that number. So it's really simple. And what you see as a customer or as a service provider is a thing we call the ARMA management portal on the right. And that's where we're going to feed back to you what's going on in your environment, the good, the bad, and the very bad, so that you can have a real-time view of what's going on in your environment and how at risk you are. We can also provide APIs into that platform. So if you have a specific reporting system or ticketing system, we can provide APIs into that, and we're developing native interfaces with the big ones like ServiceNow, etc. So, like I say, the bit on the left is the fire, the bit in the middle is the forget, but the bit on the right is if we mail you, then you should probably pay attention. I've put a few screenshots in here around what the stuff you get from the portal. Overall health score is our measure of your environment in terms of how up to date it is, the agents at reporting, general health of the ARMA security platform in your environment. We also have another screen which I haven't put on here, where on the right hand side we actually measure the customer in terms of response times, so that we can get an idea of if there are problems, is where we probably need to focus some training education or some remedial work, etc. Off the back of this, we have a Kibana reporting tool. So if you need to demonstrate back to your business the efficacy of the environment and provide more detailed reports, let's be really clear, our dashboards are not necessarily as elegant as some you've seen, because we focus on the outcome. We give you the critical information to hand quickly, so you can see what's important, which environments, which are the highest risk assets, which are the critical alerts, what are they, and what's the type of alert, so you can form some priorities around which ones you remediate first. And they will also give you some vulnerability scanning and other details on what's going on in your environment. So what are the top signatures, what are the top VMs that are being targeted, as well as some more detail about that. I could go into this. We do, one of the things that we do regularly is the second engagement with the customer is normally to walk through the portal, walk through a deployment, walk through the portal, and show you some of the outcomes. But as a customer, as an ARMA customer, you get access to this, to your instance of the portal, and it's completely infrastructure free. You just need a network connection. So I've talked a lot about what it does, and in all the time, we've got about 8 minutes to go, so we'll need time for questions. So I'm just going to cover these things really quickly. Let's talk about outcomes. So this is the industry. Industry average dwell time is the time lag between penetration and discovery is 78 days. the accepted, and the key word that's the accepted average false positive, if you're good at what you do, is 40%. So that's 40% of things that pop up on your console that you need to go look at, and actually they're all fine and dandy. There's just someone doing their job. So that's the industry. Armor's looks like this. So from 78 days, we go down to 7.1 hours. And from 40%, we go to less than 4%. So we're going to take out a lot of the tool fatigue you get, we're going to take out a lot of the alert fatigue you get, and we're going to deliver outstanding security outcomes. And our commercial model is really simple. Our licensing model is by the VM per month, full stop. That's it. There is no more. We can provide additional services, and of course, the great thing if you're using Bytes as a service provider is that they could also provide remediation. Another organization that does it quite in the way that we do it. We were born out of a PCI compliance company, and then cyber became important to compliance. So we built a cyber offering, which we then realized had use cases outside of our own environments. We also do secure hosting, mainly I would say for payment card infrastructures at the moment, because that's where we came from. So it is different, it is unique, and if you're looking to move any of your workloads into a public cloud, we kind of give you the whole workload security in a package. We do one thing, we do multi-cloud workload security, but we do it really well. So with 5 minutes to go, thanks for your time. I hope you found it interesting. And if we've got any questions, please feel free.
Okay, so one of the questions that we've had is how hard is it to deploy?
So it deploys, so it depends on the platform. Okay, I would say if you're an Amazon customer, it's really easy because we've got a link into, we can provide a link into your Amazon portal, which will drag in any details of the instances you have spinning, and then you can deploy straight to them. It's a couple of lines of code, and you can sit and watch it, and it deploys in under a couple of minutes. We can also, if you want to do a mass deployment, we can bolt in with other deployment tools, again, just providing a couple of lines of code. So it's really simple, and it takes it takes a marketing devil on my shoulder. Yeah, it takes a couple of minutes to deploy per instant. But after that, it has to do some little bit of housework around malware, antivirus, and doing the baseline file integrity scan. But your protection is typically you're being protected very quickly. It's far quicker than traditional methods. So very easy, very efficient, and low labour.
Brilliant, thank you, Chris. So you've kind of just covered off another one of the questions, which was how long will it take? So you said a couple of minutes, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Perfect, okay, so, sorry.
A couple of minutes per VM, but you can do it in parallel if you want.
Brilliant, thank you. And we've had another one, can I just use AWS native tools to do this?
No, because they don't provide protection within the workload. They'll give you some protection around the edge, and actually one of the file sources that we can ingest natively for correlation are the native Amazon tools. We've got that level of integration built in. We are actually one of the top, is it 3 or 5 Amazon security partners? And so if you look at the WAF stuff and the other Amazon tools, we can ingest those natively out of the box. So I guess you can, you could use the Amazon tools, but it's not going to protect your workload, which is where your data is.
Brilliant, thank you. And do I need a SOC team to review the alerts coming in?
No. So we provide, our SOC does all of that analysis, that correlation, and the threat detection for you, okay? We're not SOC as a service because we only do workload protection. We're not SIM as a service because we do workload protection and the correlation and some of the remediation. But I guess if you have a SOC, we augment those services and take a lot of the, what I call the heavy lifting out of multi-cloud environments, because we do it from a single pane of glass. You don't have to have multiple panes of glass looking at all your different clouds. So do you still need a SOC? Depending on your environment, if you're pure cloud, maybe not. If you have hybrid with some heavy legacy stuff, because we don't do legacy. We do modern cloud workloads, so we don't do legacy OSs, we don't do Solaris, we don't do AIX. If you have those workloads, you may still need some level of SOC service, it's your own or as a service brought in.
Brilliant, thank you, Chris. Okay, so we've had another question. What is the pricing model?
How much have you got? No, seriously. The pricing model, we have various ways of doing it. So you can buy it off the Amazon Workplace now, as we speak, at 22 cents per instance per hour. Sounds great, but it's the most expensive way of buying Armour Complete because it's a consumption model. So we charge per VM, per instance. So we'll give you a pool of licenses, which as a customer you can deploy and redeploy. If you turn the instance off, we stop charging, and you can redeploy that license somewhere else. You can do that as a monthly payment. You can do that as an annual or 3-year commit. Our CRO loves that model, by the way. Or you can do for service providers. We also offer and customers. We offer a pay in arrears model. Although I'm not so keen on that with customers because you tend to lose trace of you can lose trace of what you've got deployed and the cost visibility. So we offer all three types of deployment. In terms of working with Bytes and as a Bytes AWS customer, then we look to build a commercial model where we bake in that into your model with Bytes. And so again, we make it easy per month. Zero more commitment you give, the better the deal. Clearly, I guess that's probably the same for Bytes, Simon.
Yeah, that's right. So obviously, if we're talking many VMs, then obviously it's not going to be quite the same price as if it was 2 VMs. But yes, general model is a monthly basis with a kind of year commit. If there's 3-year commit of a minimum amount of service, then we can obviously do better on the discount side of things.
But our model, our licensing model is really simple. Per VM per month. That's kind of the bread and butter financial model for us.
Okay, brilliant. So that's all the questions that we've had today. But if anyone did have any other questions, then feel free to send them through to tellmemore@bytes.co.uk, and we'll be happy to help. So thank you to Chris and Simon for presenting the webinar today, and thank you all for taking the time to join. Really hope it's been valuable for you. As I said earlier, please do complete the feedback form at the end if you can. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.